Welcome to the Bay Area, the home of
Facebook,
Yahoo, Google. Yes, we are in Silicon Valley, not to be confused with Silicon Valley. That's LA. But before this whole valley was a valley of microchips and microprocessors and social media, this was a place of another technology, theme park and amusement park ride technology. Yes, I'm going to show you where some of your most classic and iconic Disneyland rides were built. Let's go. Decades before Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin were even born, a group of four friends, Andy Anderson, Carl Bacon, William Hardiman, and Edgar Morgan, set up shop in Mountain View, California. The four had previously worked together at a machine shop nearby, building torpedo launchers and marine steam engines for the US Navy. But in 1945, they decided to start their own company, and they called it Aero Development. And it's right here at 243 Moffett Street. These guys were so into building and making things, they even built their own building. Talk about being a boss. In the early days, they would take just about any job they could get, from making parts for cars and trucks to working with NASA. But it was the quality of their amusement park rides that caught the eye of Mr. Walt Disney. Here's a picture of Walt Disney standing right outside Aero Development with the guys from Aero looking at what looks to be a prototype Mr. Toad vehicle. And Walt even went for a spin in the little car right down Moffett Street. This is where Imagineer Bob Gurr was testing out a prototype Mr. Toad vehicle. But a lot sure has changed in the past 60 plus years. We're behind the old Aero Development building. This is where they were testing out some Snow White vehicles. I wonder what the neighbors thought looking out the window and seeing these very whimsical ride vehicles being made. Too bad this garbage can's in the way. I'm pretty sure this is where they took the picture of the almost finished Casey Jr. vehicle. Notice the windows on this side have been sealed up. Here's another shot of them testing out Casey Jr. on some kind of makeshift ramp. That could have been done right here. If you notice behind them, there's windows of some kind of building. It could have been this house, I'm not sure. It may have been remodeled in the past 60 years. The 6 rides that Aero helped build for Disneyland's opening day were King Arthur's Carousel, Dumbo the Flying Elephant, the Mad Hatter Teacups, Casey Jr., Snow White's Scary Adventures, and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. After the success of the opening day Disneyland rides, Aero got a call from Walt for more rides. Here's some pictures of Walt and his Imagineers and the guys from Aero testing out the flying saucers inside the Aero Development facility. Unfortunately, it's locked today. One of Aero's crowning achievements was the Matterhorn. Not only did Aero help bring Walt's vision of a bobsled-style roller coaster to life, they invented a completely new ride system, the tubular steel coaster. They even patented a new braking system which added safety and ride capacity. After the success of the Matterhorn, Walt Disney bought 1/3 of Aero and moved the company to a bigger facility. To right here at 1555 Plymouth Street. Now, we need to do what some people might call trespassing, but I need to get behind the building so I can show you where they constructed some rides and tested out some other Disneyland ride vehicles.
Success! We made it behind the buildings.
If I could just get a bit higher, I can show you where they're testing out the It's a Small World ride vehicles and flume. Notice in the background, you can see the hill where the freeway sits. Other rides that Aero helped design were Adventures Through Inner Space, the Midget Autopia, the Motorboat Cruise, Alice in Wonderland, and Haunted Mansion, just to name a few. They even designed most of the rides for Walt Disney World, including their version of Peter Pan's Flight. Using the freeway as a reference, we can get the general area of where Walt Disney tested out Pirates of the Caribbean. Behind the Aero building, they built a section of the flume and even a hill to go down, and that's Walt Disney right in the very front. And I think it's really special that even though Walt Disney died 3 months before Pirates of the Caribbean opened, he got to ride it in some form. He got to sit in the ride vehicles and go down the hills, right back here in Mountain View. But I don't want to end this video on a somber note. Let me share with you one more story of Walt Disney and Aero development. But this time, let's go to Santa Cruz, California. We're back at the boardwalk. So what brought Walt Disney all the way to Santa Cruz? Well, he was having trouble with his Autopia ride, which was an opening day ride not made by Aero Development. Riders are crashing the cars into the curbs, or jumping the curbs, or destroying the curbs and the cars themselves. Basically, it was a maintenance nightmare. So Walt, along with the guys from Aero Development, came to the boardwalk to check out the Aero-designed Boardwalk Autorama. The inventive part about the Boardwalk Autorama is that it had a center guide rail, which controlled how far the passengers could steer the car. That center guide rail really protected the cars from crashing into the curbs. This is where the Boardwalk Autorama was located. It has since been taken out. Walt took a spin on the Autorama and was really impressed, so much so that 2 years later, Disneyland's Autopia was retrofitted with a center guide rail. And here is where on March 9th, 1963, Walt, a few of the guys from Aero, and some people from Disney were standing right outside the boardwalk. In the background, you can see the Giant Dipper. I find it so fascinating how hands-on Walt Disney was. I mean, he could have sent one of his executives down here to Santa Cruz to look at the ride system, but he wanted to see how he could make his Autopia rides better with his own eyes. That's pretty fascinating, pretty amazing. I hope you enjoyed this brief look about how some classic Disneyland rides were made in Silicon Valley. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. It helps support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and also hit that notification bell. Alright, I'll see you next time. Bye! Gibson family, you won my Saved by the Bell giveaway, but for some reason, my messages on YouTube are not going through. So please email me at stanleyfoss@gmail.com, and I'll get those out to you right away.